Hello everyone, Jean Kinnicky here. Today our topic of discussion is going to be on Alzheimer's disease. And we're just not going to delve into Alzheimer's disease, but we're going to take it a step further and look at what are the risk factors for Alzheimer's disease. Then we're going to look at what are the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. We're going to look at the stages of Alzheimer's disease and how it's being treated. So let's get started. Alzheimer's disease is the leading cause of dementia, which is a brain disorder that robs people of the ability to think, learn, and remember, and eventually robs them of their very selves. Now, more than 6 million Americans currently have Alzheimer's. And before I go any further, the reason for my research and doing this video is I currently have a beloved sister of mine that's suffering from Alzheimer's. So I wanted to take the time to enlighten everyone about this disease. So, what is Alzheimer's? Dementia and Alzheimer's disease are often used interchangeably, but they're different. Dementia is a loss over time of memory and other mental functions, or a change in mood or behavior that is severe enough to interfere with a person's ability to function at home, in society, or at work. This umbrella term covers a range of cognitive problems in thinking skills. Alzheimer's disease is one type of dementia and the most common. In fact, Alzheimer's disease accounts for 60 to 80% of all dementia cases. Alzheimer's causes a decline in cognition and memory loss, accompanied by changes in mood and behavior. The disease is caused by the accumulation of two types of protein in the brain. One is called tangles, and the other is plaques. These tangles and plaques make it difficult for brain cells, which is the neurons, to communicate with one another, impeding memory and other mental functions. Eventually, Alzheimer's destroys enough brain cells that people die. After an Alzheimer's diagnosis, people have an average life expectancy of 8 to 10 years in an increasingly dependent state as the disease progresses. There is no cure for Alzheimer's disease, though some treatments temporarily improve symptoms. It's impossible to predict how Alzheimer's will affect each individual because the symptoms and rate of progression vary. Some people develop severe mood and behavior problems. Others do not. A symptom can show up early or not appear until much later. For some people, the decline is slow and gradual over a period or longer. Others experience a rapid downhill that ends in death within a few years. So let's take a moment and look at the risk factors for Alzheimer's disease. Several factors raise the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. These include age, gender, family history, genetics, and health conditions. Some you can control while others you can't. Now, age, gender, and family history. The risk of developing Alzheimer's diseases raises steadily after age 65. And women appear to have a higher rate of Alzheimer's than men, with women accounting for nearly 2/3 of the cases. The disease is also hereditary. In general, having a relative or a sibling with Alzheimer's disease doubles the risk. Let's look at the genes. Those who inherit specific mutations will inevitably develop Alzheimer's disease, usually at relatively young ages, even starting at age 45. This genetically determined form of the disease, known as early onset Alzheimer's, account for roughly 1% of total cases of Alzheimer's in the United States. Other genes do not necessarily cause Alzheimer's, but do increase your chances of developing the typical late onset form, which accounts for 99% of cases. Now, while researchers have identified many genes, one that stands out is the E genes, ApoE gene. This gene has 3 variants: E2, E3, and E4. The problematic one is E4, which scientists believe may play a role in the faulty clearing of beta amyloid deposits from the brain. Now, let's look at the health conditions. Many studies show that the same conditions that harm the heart, the blood vessels, also increase the risk of Alzheimer's. These include high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. the presence of 3 or more of the following factors: a large waistline, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL, which is the good cholesterol, and difficulty regulating blood sugar. Other health conditions that raise one's risk including smoking, a head injury, depression, and hearing loss. So you may ask, well, what are the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease? Well, Alzheimer's disease is rarely identified in its early stages. One reason is that people and their families frequently don't tell a doctor about early signs or symptoms. They may confuse them with typical signs of aging like forgetfulness, or symptoms may emerge so gradually that they go unnoticed. Also, if a person is aware of symptoms, they may go to great lengths to conceal or compensate for them. Still, recognizing the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's is key in early diagnoses, which is confirmed through various physical and mental tests. While the course of Alzheimer's can vary, the following are common symptoms: progressive memory loss, this is the most characteristic and earliest sign and symptoms of Alzheimer's. Only short-term memory, like recent events or new information, is initially impaired. People may forget the content of a conversation and ask the same questions repeatedly. The impairment soon interferes with the ability to interact socially and perform work. Long-term memories may be retained longer, but they grow increasingly fragmented. Disorientation. The sense of time becomes more disoriented as the disease progresses. People may insist it's time to leave immediately after arriving at a location, or they will complain of not being fed as soon as a meal has ended. Then there's the topic of decline in judgment and problem solving. The ability to solve day-to-day problems, make decisions, and exercise judgment is noticeably impaired. Deterioration of these skills can begin subtly as poor performance in an activity the person once did well. Now, people frequently have difficulty planning and carrying out tasks that require more than one step. Poor judgment and lack of insight can lead to victimization, from scams and vulnerability to accidents. Which leads us to their difficulties with language. People with Alzheimer's typically have difficulty using and understanding language as time passes. Some language skills may be retained longer than others. Difficulty with word finding is a common and frequently frustrating early symptom. Unable to think of the right words, people with Alzheimer's may try to cover up with long-winded description that fail to reach the point, or they may angrily refuse to discuss the matter further, which are some of the things that I have been encountering with my own sister, which is awfully heartbreaking. Visual and spatial dysfunction. The disease damages the brain's ability to understand the visual information it receives. This can make it difficult to locate objects and get a sense of surroundings and place, which makes driving more difficult and hazardous. People may also be unable to recognize familiar objects or how to use them, even objects as simple as a toothbrush. They may also fail to recognize familiar faces, familiar family members. Let's look at changes in mood, behavior, and personality. Apathy is common, and many people with Alzheimer's lose interest in their usual activities. They're less motivated and are more socially withdrawn. A person may become anxious, irritable, and inexplicably hostile. Depression is also very common. There's also decline in daily functioning. These include routine tasks such as working, managing finances, driving, using public transportation, shopping, preparing meals, cleaning, and making simple repairs. So you may ask, what are the stages of Alzheimer's disease? Well, let's look at the stages. Alzheimer's disease unfolds in 5 stages as symptoms progressively get worse. Stage 1, it's mild cognitive impairment. They tend to have memory lapses. Now, memory lapses occur, but many seem like slight absent-mindedness and often go unnoticed by others. Individuals may lose or misplace objects. They may not fully observe what they read or hear, and job performance and social skills begin to suffer. They may become confused in new surroundings and struggle to find the right words when speaking. The first personality change is usually a loss of spontaneity. People may avoid situations that challenge their abilities and may grow withdrawn, apathetic, moody, depressed, irritable, and anxious. They typically deny their problems are serious, even to themselves, and may blame others for their failures. Stage 2 brings us to mild dementia. Problems with memory and other thinking skills are now apparent to others. People have difficulty retaining new information and lose the thread of conversations. They sometimes have trouble recalling current events, like who's the president, or their personal history, such as where they attend school and the like. They may be no longer able to manage their finances. Depression often becomes prominent. And they may have a striking lack of insight into their cognitive problems. They may insist on driving despite a series of fender benders, or continue to cook but repeatedly scorch empty pots on the stove. Stage 3, mild to moderate dementia. Memory fluctuates daily, even hourly. From day to day, you don't know who you will be talking to. People sometimes forget significant life events, but deny having memory problems. They often are unaware of the date or time of the year, and their conversations may become disjointed and contain irrelevant content, which is what I have been experiencing with my sister. The continuing deterioration of memory gives people a sense of insecurity, which they may express with paranoia or anger. They may accuse others of hiding their belongings, stealing from them, or plotting against them because of the paranoia. Although able to manage many fundamental activities of daily living, such as using the bathroom and eating, they may only partially complete tasks because they cannot remember all the steps involved. So this brings us to step 4, moderate to severe dementia. Dramatic changes occur at this stage. People may begin to look ill. Language skills are considerably reduced, and memory impairment becomes so profound that everything can seem unfamiliar and threatening to them. Individuals often have difficulty comprehending what others say or do, which can lead to a variety of emotional reactions like delusions, like accusing a spouse of infidelity or talking to imaginary people. Obsessive behavior, like repeatedly cleaning an object, endlessly removing or replacing the contents of a drawer. Agitation, like pacing, hostile behavior, asking the same questions repeatedly. And catastrophic reactions. People may walk slow, shuffling steps and require assistance with bathing, dressing, eating, and such. Sleep disturbances are very common at this stage as well. Which brings us to number 5, which is the severe dementia. The final stage is known as the long goodbye. At this stage, all language skills are gone, and there seems to be little left to the person's self. Behavior problems diminish and motor skills decline until the person can no longer walk, sit up, chew, or swallow food, or control bladder, bowel movements. At this stage, the person often chokes on their own saliva, which can get into the lungs, causing pneumonia. Because of the lack of movement, bed sores may develop, which can get infected. Pneumonia and infections are common causes of death. So you may ask, how is Alzheimer's disease treated? Unfortunately, there is no cure for Alzheimer's disease. There are treatment options to help alleviate symptoms and sometimes slow its progression. But there is no cure. Medications are often the first treatment. Some drugs target cognitive function or decline. Others are used to help with mood and behavior problems, such as agitation and outbursts of anger. Now, let's look at medications to treat Alzheimer's disease. There are 4 drugs with outstanding FDA approval. Aricept, Rezidine, Exelon, Namenda, all available as brand name drugs and lower cost generics. A simple pill combination of donizepam and Memantine is a simple pill combination, is sold under the brand name Nemziric. All these prescription medication affect particular parts of the brain chemicals and other modest and temporary, often 6 months or less, improvements in memory. Memantine is approved for use in people with moderate to severe Alzheimer's. Another FDA-approved drug, which is Aduhelm, ADUHELM, helps clear beta amyloids, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease, from the brain. It's given by intravenous infusion and is for people with mild cognitive impairment or mild dementia. Leqembi, Leqembi, is another intravenous drug that aims to reduce burden on amyloid protein in the brain of patients with early stage Alzheimer's disease. But it's expensive, and it is unclear how effectively it can slow cognitive decline. Now let's look at medications to treat mood and behavior problems associated with Alzheimer's disease. Other medications may help with mood and behavior problems associated with Alzheimer's. There are 3 main classes of drugs used. They're antidepressants, mood stabilizers, and antipsychotics. Now, let's look at these. Antidepressants, which I know well, having worked in the mental health system for over the past 20 years and more. When depression, anxiety, irritability, agitation, or behavior problems arise in a person with dementia, doctors often turn to antidepressants as the first drug. In addition to relieving mood symptoms, antidepressants may enhance the social functioning of a person with Alzheimer's. They may improve appetite, sleep, and increase energy too. Doctors often choose a particular antidepressant drug based on its ability to improve various problems. For example, a class of drug called selective serotonin reuptake, SSRI, including sertraline, which is Zoloft, Celexa, and Lexapro, which helps with depression, anxiety, irritability, and agitation. If a person with dementia has both depression and apathy, the more activating antidepressant drugs would be Effexor. People with both depression and pain may be given Cymbalta. When symptoms disrupt sleep, the antidepressant drug trazodone or Remeron may help. And so let's look at the mood stabilizers. When antidepressants do not adequately address behavior problems, mood stabilizers are the next option. These drugs can reduce agitation and mood swings. Some examples are Depakote and Lamictal. Antipsychotics. Antipsychotic drugs may help manage specific behavior problems, such as severe agitation and hostility, which may result from delusional or hallucinations. They are used with caution because of possible serious side effects, such as symptoms that mimic Parkinson's disease, which shows as slow movement, tremors, rigid muscles, shuffling walk, drooling, or a mask-like expression. And tardive dyskinesia, where there's involuntary movement. Newer antipsychotic drugs, such as Abilify, Seroquel, or Risperdal, are less likely to cause these symptoms. So, that brings us to the end of my investigation into this disease of Alzheimer's disease. So this brings us to the end of my investigation into the Alzheimer's disease. If you have any further questions or need more information or have some more input into your experience with Alzheimer's disease, I would be happy to hear from you. In the meantime, I continue to work with the doctors and my sister and the family to look at the big picture and see where and how we could best help her. Thank you for your time, and I hope this information was helpful to you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I thank you very much. God bless.